Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. In today's video, I'll be reviewing the brand new Summon Showcase, Gala Dragalia Remix. This showcase is only here for a short duration, just 3 days including today, so if you want to summon on this, you're going to have to do so relatively quickly. Therefore, we'll try get through this review in short order. I want to talk about the new units, I want to talk about the banner as a whole, and I did decide to wait a day before I put out this video because I wanted to make sure that this banner wasn't too good to be true. The preview looked absolutely awesome. If you're not familiar, basically the remix, the idea behind this is that it's a way to get access to past Gala characters at appearance rates which are just as good as when they first came out. And there's no new Gala adventurers on these banners, but there are new adventurers in general, Summer Patia and Summer Mikoto, that will be part of the permanent summoning pool. Now when I first saw the preview, I was thinking to myself, surely Gala Cleo and Gala Mars are here, but maybe they're just here as something you can summon, but not with an appearance rate up. Or maybe they have an appearance rate up, but it's a really tiny rate up and it's not that good, because it just seemed like such a lucrative and high value banner. As it turns out, it's pretty much exactly the best case scenario from what was advertised, so I think this is a great time to summon. Be advised that galas are irregular now. There could very easily be a gala at the end of the month with new summer characters again, and Gala Lakshi. There's probably going to be a gala next month and the next month after that, so you have to be a little bit more judicious with your summoning resources. But if you don't have Gala Cleo or Gala Mars, even if you don't have Gala Mars, I think this is a great banner to summon on, because obviously you won't have Summer Patia or Summer Mikoto since they're brand new, and both of them look very, very respectable. So I think there is definitely merit to summoning on this. I will be doing some summoning myself just to try pick up Gala Mars at a minimum, but it may take a while to do that. It's definitely not easy to snipe on these Gala banners, but as I said, if we check the appearance rates here, it's as easy as it's ever been. It's not any worse chances just because these are rerun galas or something like that. It's still good opportunities to get these characters here. So Summer Mikoto has an appearance rate up of 0.5%. Summer Patia is at that 0.5% as well, and same with Gala Cleo. And then for dragons, Gala Mars has 0.8%, so a little easier to get the dragons, but still can be challenging nonetheless. Now, one oddity with this is that there are no other Gala characters or dragons except for Gala Alex. And when I first saw this, I honestly thought it was a mistake. I felt like maybe we'd be getting some kind of compensation, but for whatever reason they've decided to put Gala Alex here but no other Gala characters. And I want to say and make very clear, you should not summon on this if your goal is to get Gala Alex. It's never a good idea to try summon for an off-focus character specifically, whether it's on a regular banner or a Gala banner. So if you just want to get Gala Alex, or that's like a high priority for you, do not summon on this. She has the same very low % chance to appear as all other adventurers. Sure, some people are going to get lucky, they're going to get Gala Alex off of this, and they're going to be very happy, but you have to remember that's going to be the very small minority of people. It's just complete random chance, up to complete luck if you happen to get her. But the things you want to summon on this for are Mikoto, Patia, Cleo, and particularly Mars, as I think Mars is probably the biggest get from this, from a perspective of being able to easily clear content, with the follow-up being Gala Cleo most likely. Alright, so that's kind of enough about the banner. Hopefully you have a sense of whether or not you should pull, look at your collection, do you have Mars? If not, probably consider summoning, at least on the third and final day of the showcase when you have a sense for what's coming next. If you don't have Gala Mars or Cleo, I think it's a slam dunk. And if you have Cleo already, I think you could still justify pulling if you don't have Mars. If you have both of them, it's probably a skip, because the next Gala may have a brand new Gala character, plus you're going to have these summer characters there. And I have a feeling if you have both Cleo and Mars, you're not particularly struggling, so I don't know that you would need Mikoto or Patia. Having said that, Mikoto and Patia, fan favorites, everybody loves them, so there may be other reasons you want to pull here, obviously. Alright, that's enough about the banner itself. Let's get into the showcase info so we can talk about the characters. We're going to start off by talking about Summer Patia. She is a Shadow Element Axe, and there's a little bit of text here saying that she and Mikoto will also appear in the next summon showcase. I have to assume this refers to whatever's coming after Gala Dragalia, but the way this was worded on the announcement, it did make me think that maybe it was referring to the Gala itself, because at the time the announcement was posted, the Gala was the next summon showcase after Water's Blessing. So now that I read it here, I think that this means whatever banner comes next, it'll probably be some type of filler banner, and both of them will be on it. Okay, so, and it just says they'll appear. It doesn't say they'll have a raid up or anything, so keep that in mind. Adventures and Dragons added in past Gala Dragalia summon showcases may appear in the summon showcase as well. For information about which Adventures and Dragons may appear, yada yada. We saw that. We saw that it's Gala Cleo with the raid up, Gala Mars with the raid up, Gala Alex randomly there, but no raid up, not a reason to summon. Okay, so here we go. Summer Patia, Shadow Axe. The Summer Sparrow is in top form. Fall in behind me. I think the artwork looks great. Let's take a look. She doesn't have any description about her character here, but let's take a look at her skill description. Her first skill is Sparrow Splash, deal shadow damage to the target and nearby enemies and reduces their defense by 5% for 10 seconds. And her second skill is called Surging Sparrows, deal shadow damage to enemies in a line and inflicts poison. That one's shareable, but at a pretty high cost of 7 tomes, so not too cheap to share and in competition with adventurers whose skills you can share like Kurin, Ieyasu, and Veronica. Let's see what her abilities are. Her co-ability is obviously defense, plus 15%, and her chain co-ability is one we've seen before. HP below 40% equals strength plus 15%. Actually the exact same setup as on regular Kurin, which I'm not gonna lie, I do find that to be a little bit odd. It feels a little too similar to me. I do like to see chain co-ability differentiation, because it's one of the few things that really makes these characters not directly power creep each other. Not saying that she'll power creep Kurin by any means. Obviously he has his mana spiral, he has an awesome shared skill, but yeah, this seems really similar, so I don't know that you'd want to run them both together. Obviously as backliners there's redundancy, but with the chain co-ability that would stack, so that does get kind of interesting there. Okay, so our first ability is Sparrow Spiker 2, increases defense by 5% and grants the user a unique Force Strike that has 3 increasingly powerful charge levels. Movement is possible while charging. Using Sparrow Slash grants the user the Seaside Spirit effect. While this effect is active, the user's next 3 Force Strikes will inflict poison. This effect cannot stack and will be consumed on use. Okay, so this gives her a static 5% defense increase, and it grants her a unique Force Strike that has 3 increasingly powerful charge levels, and you can move while charging. I haven't seen exactly what this looks like yet. And then when you use Sparrow Slash, you're going to get the Seaside Spirit effect. So Sparrow Slash is her first skill, and when that effect is active, her next Force Strike will cause poison, but it doesn't say it changes the property, so I have to assume it's the same kind of animation, charge levels, but it's just going to also cause poison. Interesting here. I have to imagine this looks something like spiking a volleyball. Let's see if we can tell from this little video clip that gets played here. Huh, I wonder if her Force Strike is throwing the axe like that. Well, we can't see it here, so I'm not sure exactly what this looks like. We can check on the wiki for damage modifiers, so I'm glad that those are up now and unavailable, so let's check those on the skills. So for Sparrow Slash, it costs 2800 SP and deals about 1500% damage. Pretty respectable considering you get 100% chance at defense reduction. That's pretty nice. So a good amount of damage, and a guaranteed defense reduction is very solid. And then Surging Sparrows, 5600 SP, over 10k SP if you share it. Deals one hit of 2310 shadow damage and then inflicts poison. That's also a lot of damage for relatively low cost. So let's see if it has anything about the damage modifiers on her Force Strikes. Interesting, so not yet, not that I see yet at the time of recording. They have the damage modifier on the poison. It looks fairly standard, but nothing remarkable. So let's talk about the rest of her kits. Paralysis Res plus 100%, and then Poison Edge and Anti-Poison equals Strength 2. This anti-poison thing looks pretty interesting to me. Poison Edge increases the chance of inflicting poison by 60% when the user's HP is 50% or above, and increases the user's strength by 15% for 10 seconds every time the user tries to inflict poison on a foe and the affliction is resisted. Nice. After activating, that won't activate again for 5 seconds. So even when you cap out poison on an enemy, if you would have caused poison and you get that resist text, you're going to get a strength buff, a 10-second strength buff of 15%, which it's something. I mean, a lot of times you want to have poison uptime for Punisher effects, right? So it's not so much that you care about whether you actually cause poison or not. It's more that you want poison to be on the enemy so your other skills and whatnot do more damage. So Patia has 2 ways to cause poison in her kit, her second skill and then the altered Force Strike. Essentially, the Force Strike is quite nice because it means that you could stagger and space out when you cause the poison. Like, you can hold the Force Strike charge until a little bit later so that you have less overlap and less stacks of poison at once, kind of space it out a little bit better. But there are a lot of Shadow Element characters who inflict poison, so you're going to eat into some of the cap of how many times you can poison an enemy, no matter how you look at it. And it's very likely with the Poison Edge, you're going to be able to cap out poison on an enemy eventually, so the strength buff is kind of nice as a way of compensating for that. This is an effect I had never thought of before. I hope we see this effect on Eleonora. She could certainly use something like that if she ever gets a Mana Spiral. Overall, looking at Summer Patia, I have to say there's a large mystery for me around how her Force Strike works. Just looking at this, there's no indication that her Force Strike will have altered SP generation, but when you think back to Zubajier, his Force Strike basically charged his first skill in 2 uses, 2 fully charged uses, I think. And she has the same SP cost on her first skill as he did. So it's quite possible that she'll play in a similar pattern where you do 2 Force Strikes and then you have your first skill ready. You use your first skill and then the next 2 Force Strikes, the first one is going to cause poison, and that will be how she plays out. So I do think that it's highly possible she may not even use basic attacks depending on how good this Force Strike is. And that could give her a pretty cool play pattern. I have to imagine this would look like her spiking a volleyball though, which Zubajier is kind of like a shoulder charge. So let me know in the comments below. You've probably seen this already at this point. I have not seen it yet, but I'm curious about this. I think she seems like she's a strong character, but just like with him, right now, well, he's a little bit different, being a different element, but let me speak on Patia. So Patia is in a situation where the hardest light content is not particularly hard. So Master High Jupiter, probably the hardest light content because Expert's Kayan is not especially difficult. And in Master High Jupiter, Summer Patia seems good. If you're soloing, there's strong low HP comps where you could use her Chainco ability. She could be pretty explosive with the Force Strike damage and causing poison, has very good modifiers and a defense reduction. She seems good, but lots of characters can take that on well, and if you're in co-op, I have to wonder what the co-op meta is even like in the Master High Jupiter world at this point. Shadow is kind of weird in that there have been really different eras of that battle, and with me not playing it much nowadays, I can't really speak to this, but for instance, there were times when, you know, it would be 1 Audric and 3 Gala Cleos, and that was normal. Then once revives were introduced, it started being a Delphi and 3 Gala Cleos. And more people realized, you know, you don't necessarily need Gala Cleo there. It could actually just be a Delphi and, like, whoever, you know, a Delphi and a Nefaria and 2 Cleos, or a Delphi and Valentine's Addis and some Cleos. Like, there's a lot of combinations that work, and now that we have Skillshare, you can also use crowd control skills more readily, even in co-op, to stop the opening blast. The opening blast damage itself has been reduced, so that's less of a factor now. So all this to say, there's infinite ways to tackle the hard light content. A lot of them are relatively easily available as well. So I'm not sure that Summer Patia is like the way. I think that Summer Patia is awesome as a Patia alt, And frankly, I would probably build up regular Patia before Summer Patia because I think she has a lot of utility in like off-element team comps for Mercurial Gauntlet, and she's just super tanky. She's great to build for autos. So with you not being able to use both Patias on one team in single player, this would not be my highest priority as far as building out a character, but I'm sure she's going to be fine and like perfectly good, perfectly usable. It's just a matter of maybe people being set in their ways or having certain team comps, but that fight should probably be relatively open by now, considering how easy it should be. So yeah, I think she's a strong character, but nothing game-changing, if that makes sense. And the comparison I was going to make to Zubache was with him, we just don't know how good he's going to be or how relevant he's going to be in his Agito battle. With Patia, we kind of know. The thing we don't know is necessarily how she's going to do against Master Kayan, but notably she doesn't have any built-in dispel, so if she's going to be dispelling, it's going to be because she has a shared skill, like Ronzel's, which would be a great shared skill on her in principle with all the poison stuff she has, but not quick to access. So if Kayan on Master constantly throws up his shield and you have to dispel a lot, it could be a problem for her. So nothing that couldn't be overcome with the right team comp, but that's kind of my take on Summer Patia. So let's move on to Summer Mikoto. This is a unit I really want to summon. I think he looks pretty good. I like the wetsuit, and I like the armor that's on his lower half here, as well as the tassels. You know, I think that they did a pretty good job. I've seen some comments about his upper body, his kind of look of his face. It feels a little off, but I think that they did a good job. I like his portrait overall. Blue Waters and Blazing Sun are both part of me. So he is a light bow, and just as we just mentioned about Zubache, that means there's some uncertainty here. We haven't had endgame shadow content other than High Zodiac, which really few people play, so we don't necessarily know how good Summer Mikoto will be against future Agito content, or maybe how bad he'll be. Let's start with Radiant Bolt, his first skill. This is shareable with a cost of 7. Deals light damage to the target and nearby enemies and inflicts paralysis. When the user has the Illuminating Sunlight and Celestial Wave Light effects, the Sun and Sea ability will make this skill deal more damage and deal extra damage to paralyzed foes. And then the second skill is Magnanity's Call. Increases the user's strength by 20% for 30 seconds. When the user has the Illuminating Sunlight and Celestial Wave Light effects, the Sun and Sea ability will make this skill also increase the user's critical rate by 20% for 30 seconds, and add 15% to the modifier applied to critical damage for 30 seconds. Alright, so a lot going on here. Obviously, we're going to have to read the first ability, Sun and Sea, to kind of make sense of this. But on paper, I'm seeing 30-second buffs. That's a long buff. I like to see that. I'm seeing paralysis, obviously, on Radiant Bolt and dealing extra damage to paralyzed foes. So let's take a look at the co-ability and chain co-ability. Skill haste and then paralysis equals user shadow res plus 8%. Honestly, this looks really similar to Summer Cleo. I'm not sure if this is exactly her same chain co-ability, but I think she has a shadow res like chain co-ability as well. That's pretty unremarkable. So it looks very similar. Going back to Summer Patia, I do prefer when these are more differentiated, but it's hard to get a good chain co-ability in combination with skill haste. It's very rare. There are few adventurers who have Affliction Edge or have energy, hits equals energy, but it's pretty rare, so this is okay, but probably could be a little bit more pushed if they wanted it to be. Let's look at abilities. Sun and Sea 2. This is obviously the key to a lot of Summer Mikoto's kit. Increases defense by 5%, grants the user a unique 4-strike, and grants the user the Sunlight effect for 12 seconds at the start of quests. Okay, so again, he has a static 5% defense increase, which is interesting. A unique 4-strike, and then you get the Sunlight effect for 12 seconds. Using a 4-strike while you have the Sunlight effect gives you the Illuminating Sunlight effect, which will not stack. After the Sunlight effect ends, the user will be granted the Wave Light effect for 12 seconds. Using a 4-strike while the user has the Wave Light effect will grant the user the Celestial Wave Light effect, which will not stack. After the Wave Light effect ends, the user will be granted the Sunlight effect again for 12 seconds. If the user has both the Illuminating Sunlight and Celestial Wavelight effects, the Radiant Bolt and Magnanity's Call skills will be powered up. Using either powered up skill will consume both of the effects. Sunlight and Wavelight are not affected or extended by buff time abilities. Wow, so this is a pretty complicated effect. So obviously there's some unique Force Strike. I can't speak too much to that, not knowing exactly what that looks like or what it does now. But there's some type of unique Force Strike. I don't know if it affects SP generation. I don't know if this puts Mikoto in the Nefaria and Hawk category as far as higher shared skill SP cost. Presumably not, since that's pretty uncommon. But basically you have a special Force Strike. You start with Sunlight. You want to make sure within that 12 seconds you use a Force Strike at least once. That gives you Illuminating Sunlight, and you keep that effect. So when Wavelight starts, you use a Force Strike, and then you get Celestial Wavelight. And now you have both. At that point, you can use either of these skills and get a bonus, but after you use it, it'll reset. You'll have to wait till the end of Wavelight so that Sunlight happens again, and then you get your Celestial Illuminating Sunlight and then your Celestial Wavelight respectively. So basically 13 seconds into a match is the soonest that you could have this powered up opportunity, and then you would have to wait essentially, well, you would have to wait another, 22 seconds? You'd have to wait 11 seconds for Moonlight to end, then Sunlight starts, and you have to wait, I guess, 13 seconds for Moonlight to start again. That doesn't seem right. Okay, so never mind. What you can do is, we're brainstorming this live as I'm recording. So what you can do is, you're in Moonlight, right? You're in Wavelight, rather. During Wavelight, you get Celestial Wavelight. Now you have the Sun effect, and now you have the Illuminating Sun effect and the Celestial Wavelight effect. You use one of your power-up skills, and now your power-up is gone. But you're still in Moonlight, or in Wavelight, as long as you do that within the 12 seconds. So then you can immediately get another stack of Celestial Wavelight. And as soon as your Sunlight period begins, you can immediately get an Illuminating Sunlight effect. And before the Sunlight period ends, you can get your next Illuminating Sunlight effect as long as you can spend the combo stack. So it's kind of like original Mikoto in the sense that it is somewhat timing dependent. Like within the 12-second period, you want to be able to exhaust the Celestial plus Illuminating bonus so that you can charge up the Celestial or Illuminating bonus once again for that particular phase, whether that's the Sunlight or Wavelight phase. Kind of weird. I know this doesn't really make a lot of sense to read out loud, but basically the way that this would play out is you start a quest. Within the first 12 seconds, you use a Force Strike. In second 13, you use a Force Strike. Now you use a skill. That skill will get powered up. Somewhere between seconds 14 and 24 of the quest, you need to use another Force Strike again, so you get a Celestial Wavelight charge. And then on second 25 of the quest, you're going to use a Force Strike and get another powered up skill, essentially. And then within the next 12 seconds, you have to do a Force Strike again. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think it probably makes more sense when you actually play it. Basically, every 12 seconds, you need to be doing like 1 or 2 Force Strikes and exhausting your buffs off of these skills. Whew. Mikoto seems a little complicated to play out, or to read, but probably not as much to play. But you kind of have to like juggle, essentially, with this. Luckily, his other two abilities are pretty simple. So Cursor has 100%, and then Paralyzed Shredder 2. Increases critical rate by 20% and adds 15% to the modifier applied to critical damage against paralyzed enemies. It's cool, it fits with Mikoto being kind of like a critical hit god in his original incarnation, but frankly, it's probably not better, and in fact, it's just looking at it, it looks extremely a lot worse than Paralyzed Punisher, but it's probably still okay. He's going to be able to keep paralysis up, I would imagine. There's great ways to do that in Light Element now, like Radiant Swan Song, and Curse Res seems fine. I mean, we have no idea how good that will be or not. So if you're playing against High Zodiarch, I have no doubt Summer Mikoto can be fine. If we look up and look at his damage modifiers, so for Radiant Bolt, this only costs 2600 SP, but over 10,000 when shared. And for just 2600 SP, it deals like 1400 damage, but plus the paralysis if you don't have it powered up. And then if you do have it powered up, it deals a lot of damage. Against a paralyzed foe, it does 3200, something like that, 3300. And if the foe isn't paralyzed, then let's see, it does at least 25, maybe 2600. So a lot of damage off the first skill. And then Magnanity's Call costs 8600 SP, obviously as advertised. It doesn't have any damage modifiers, but that's not too bad. I would imagine you can charge up Radiant Bolt very quickly because it's a similar SP cost to Eleonora's first skill. Hers is a little cheaper, but similar to things like her and Luis. So I'd imagine you can keep this up pretty quickly and do the thing I mentioned of like every 12 seconds or so doing a powered out Radiant Bolt, which should be pretty good. You also have Skill Haste to help you out, obviously. Well, Mikoto seems interesting. Really hard to evaluate, really hard to sort of read through his kit. A gameplay video of him would certainly help to comprehend what's going on with him, but I think he's a strong unit just on paper. Finally, we come to Gala Cleo and Gala Mars. Let's start with Gala Cleo. Gala Cleo really needs no introduction. She is a fantastic adventurer. She remains a very strong adventurer. Part of why she's so good is that she has incredible team support capabilities. She can debuff the enemy while buffing the entire team through her magical modification. This means that no matter how far power creep goes, to a certain extent she's insulated from that because the strongest characters make her stronger, because if she's buffing them, she's probably still contributing a lot to your team DPS. She has dual resistances, skill prep 100%. She's kind of like the total package. I think the one thing that they tried to do that kind of balanced her somewhat was obviously she didn't get the luxury of like a really good chain co ability or anything, but she's still very, very good. I don't think the Ancient Ray is actually very good to share, so keep that in mind. Like, this is a strong damage dealing skill, and you can charge it very quickly if you're using her, especially with an Agito weapon, but I don't think it's like outclasses anything else in Shadow that you might want to share, like current skill. But yeah, she's a fantastic adventurer, remains strong, usable and good in lots of the end game light content. I mean, the 2 end game light content battles, but obviously not as good in Kayan. It's in the sense that you need a Dispeller on your team, and in auto, she's actually not that good because her skill prep will mean that she often eats some skills or eats some attacks because she's in the middle of skill animations and whatnot. But she's okay. She still can be used and still fine, but you want Dispellers. So let's talk about Gala Mars. Gala Mars, what a dragon. This might be the best dragon in the game, unless I'm forgetting someone. Obviously, some characters have unique dragon forms, which are really strong, but I didn't go for Gala Mars initially, but I've been very impressed with what Gala Mars can do, completely transforming Expert Volk and other hard fights. Master Volk can be trivialized with enough Gala Mars running characters, particularly when paired with Marth or Nadine. Like some of these newer Flame Adventurers or ones who have mana spirals. It's an excellent dragon. Certain characters can get by with other dragons, like Azalith is perfectly fine and uses Arctos well, but Gala Mars is like the definitive, just best in class Flame Dragon for so many Flame Adventurers. So part of what makes Gala Mars so strong is he just has this ridiculous 90% strength, essentially. You always get 70%, and then you get 20% as long as you're healthy, 50% or above, which is very generous, easy to meet. He doesn't have the same weakness as so many other dragons, which is that you can't charge up skills while you're transformed, making it kind of bad to transform. In his case, all of your skills, which means 4 skills now that we have skill share, are going to be fully charged when your shapeshift is undone, which is absolutely awesome. It leads to these ridiculous clears. Alchemical Hellfire, the skill, deals flame damage to enemies directly ahead, draws them toward the user, gives you a strength buff for 20 seconds, and you can charge it and use it twice, so you get 2 strength buffs. I mean, this guy is just obscene. So needless to say, I think he's the best thing on this showcase. Gala Cleo's also fantastic, but Shadow is a very deep element. So I would say with both her and Summer Patia, these are not must-haves necessarily. Gala Cleo maybe more so, but I do think Shadow's become a lot deeper than when she was in her heyday. She's still obviously very useful, and maybe certain people prefer to run strictly with her as opposed to other comps. But I would say that about her and Summer Patia both. And Summer Mikoto, kind of a wild card. It's going to be a while before we know exactly how good he is. Took a while to parse what he does, but I think he's good. I think he has a good amount of potential here. If there's any weakness of his, it is that he's pretty dependent upon paralysis in terms of his kit, and that may or may not be good depending on the Agito fight. It's not as good in things like Mercurial Gauntlet, but at least Light has ways, Radiant Xuansong, to mitigate paralysis resistance buildup. Anyway, that's pretty much going to do it for this video, everyone. That's my analysis of the characters on the banner. As I said at the onset, I think this is a great time to summon for lots of types of players. Had a lot of fun discussing the adventures today. Even though there are some unknowns, I hope you enjoyed this video as we try to talk through and read about all these characters. But that is going to do it for today, everyone. So let me know if you're going to summon on this banner in the comments below. Otherwise, that's going to do it. So thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.